In 2013, in the UK, Richard and Kate are a divorced couple who have long been separated and started their own lives. Richard has a new girlfriend, and Kate is also looking for a partner online. But after living together for so many years, do they really have no feelings for each other? One day, a sleeping Richard is awakened by the sound of a horn and sees through the window that his girlfriend has returned with her lover to end their relationship. Having experienced many ups and downs, Richard is not sad, but obediently backs away, helplessly watching his girlfriend leave. On the other side, Kate is also having a busy morning. Today is the day her daughter goes to college, and Kate's sister Penelope and brother-in-law Jerry have come to see her off. Penelope has been busy helping Kate find a new boyfriend, while Jerry hopes for a reconciliation between Kate and Richard because he has a good relationship with Richard. After bidding farewell to Kate, Jerry invites Richard to play golf. However, Richard is also concerned about his daughter and makes a special call to remind her of important matters for college. These reminders inevitably make Kate roll her eyes. After the exercise, Richard officially starts his new day. In their youth, he and Kate founded a company, and although they have separated, Richard still takes care of the family's expenses. While waiting for a car, his secretary Doreen comes over with a proud smile, chattering about today's work. However, as soon as they arrive at the company building, they see all the employees gathered at the front door. Before Richard can understand the situation, a man apologetically tells him, "It's all gone, Richard. The lot." What? This makes Richard's heart sink, thinking it's a joke. But as he approaches, he sees the closure notice posted on the door. Faced with the employees' inquiries, Richard is equally confused, but he knows he cannot panic, so he pretends to be calm and states that he will find out everything and promises that no one will lose a penny. Although his words are strong, Richard feels uncertain inside. He only knows he must find someone to help him solve the problem, and that person is naturally Kate. At this moment, Kate is busy sending messages on a dating site when she suddenly hears on the TV about a diamond worth millions being auctioned off, with the winner unwilling to reveal their name but stating they will make it into a necklace for their fiancé. Just then, the doorbell rings, and Kate thinks it's her date arriving, but to her surprise, it is a serious-looking Richard. Without wasting words, he directly tells Kate that he has found out the company is about to be acquired, and the media has started reporting on it. If they don't find a way soon, not only will Richard go bankrupt, but everything Kate and the children have will also vanish. Now, Kate also realized the seriousness of the situation and quickly called Richard into the house, opened the computer to check the information about the acquisition company, only to find that a password was required to log into the website, which left both of them in a dilemma. Fortunately, they quickly thought of a solution and sought help from their son, who was a computer expert. Upon seeing his parents together again, the son didn't ask any questions and quickly sorted out the password, as he also hoped for their reconciliation. After all, that would be a complete family. However, Richard and Kate looked troubled, not knowing how to respond to their son. But the most important thing at the moment was to save the company. Kate entered the password, successfully accessed the website, and discovered that the president of the acquiring party was named Vincent, currently residing in Paris, France. Upon seeing this, Richard couldn't sit still and immediately wanted to confront him, inviting Kate to accompany him. Although Kate repeatedly refused, she also understood that if they couldn't save the company, the whole family would be in trouble, and ultimately had no choice but to agree. The two hurriedly went to the romantic city and quickly found Vincent's company. While Richard was negotiating with the front desk, Kate noticed that there was only one security guard guarding the elevator and quickly signaled to Richard, recalling their previous cooperation. Richard understood and walked towards the elevator with Kate. Suddenly, Kate's legs went weak and she fell to the ground. The security guard, seeing this, hurriedly called for help. Richard took the opportunity to open the elevator, and with the skillful acting of Kate, they quickly slipped inside. Upon reaching the top floor, Richard didn't wait for the receptionist to react and directly pushed open the door to Vincent's office. Vincent didn't blame the two, but simply asked about their purpose for coming. Richard and Kate gestured excitedly, explaining the situation while accusing Vincent of stealing their wealth, putting the entire company in crisis. However, Vincent not only didn't defend himself, but smugly stated that everything was reasonable and legal. Hearing this, Kate couldn't hold back any longer and yelled at Vincent. but the price was being thrown out the door by the arriving bodyguards. However, the two wouldn't give up. Just as they were thinking of a countermeasure, they suddenly saw a beautiful woman getting out of a car, and Richard concluded that she must be Vincent's girlfriend. As if to confirm his guess, Vincent rushed out of the company the next moment and got into the car with the woman. Seeing this, Richard quickly began to follow Kate, but because he didn't dare to get too close, he was ultimately stopped by a red light, helplessly watching Vincent disappear around the corner. Fortunately, the black car soon reappeared below, and Kate couldn't sit still any longer, repeatedly begging to switch places with Richard, then hit the gas and rushed down the stairs. The two stumbled to the ground, and this experience greatly excited Richard, while Kate no longer held back, speeding up and resuming the chase, even showcasing her driving skills to avoid cargo dot. However, just as they approached Vincent, they were suddenly warned by gunfire, causing Kate to obediently stop the car, ending this chase with lingering fear. The two walked into the inn dejectedly, wanting to book 2 rooms. Upon seeing their last name and understanding the situation, the owner kindly brought them 2 keys for adjacent rooms, falsely claiming they were the last 2 available, hoping to help them. But this trick seemed ineffective. As soon as Kate entered the room, she suddenly received a message from someone on a dating site who was very interested in her profile and happened to live in Paris, hoping to meet up. This lifted Kate's spirits, making her feel rejuvenated, and without thinking, she agreed. As night fell, Richard arrived at the outdoor restaurant in front of the inn and found Kate already waiting there. After getting her consent, Richard couldn't contain his joy and quickly sat down across from her. But before they could speak, Kate received a call from her daughter, which made her quite pleased, as it seemed her daughter cared more about her. However, Richard was anxious, wanting to say a few words to his daughter, but was ruthlessly rejected by Kate. Yet, Kate's smile had not faded when Richard's phone rang, and it was his daughter calling, giving him a chance to boast. But after finishing his conversation with his daughter, Richard suddenly shifted the topic to Kate, catching her off guard and prompting her to ask what he was up to. Richard did not hide his intentions, stating that he just wanted to spend time with Kate. Looking at the deeply affectionate Richard, Kate felt a warmth in her heart. However, just as he finished speaking, Richard's ex-girlfriend suddenly called, causing the warm atmosphere to dissipate instantly. Kate also got up to leave, leaving Richard sitting in disappointment. It seemed that repairing their relationship was a long way off. Fortunately, this wasn't their main goal. The next day, Kate suddenly tossed a magazine to Richard, which mentioned that Vincent was about to marry his fiancée Manon, who was wearing a diamond worth over $10 million around her neck. It turned out Vincent was the winner of that auction. Kate was certain that Manon would wear the diamond necklace at the wedding, and given Vincent's actions, a crazy idea arose in Kate's mind. We should nick it. This made Richard chuckle, thinking she was joking. But when he saw Kate's serious expression, his demeanor gradually turned to shock. He had never thought of becoming a thief. But Kate didn't care about that. Even if not for them, she had to think about the 2 kids. Should they let their daughter and son drop out of school? If they stole the diamond and sold it, all problems would be solved. The more Kate spoke, the more excited she became, ultimately convincing Richard to change his mind. Yeah, why the hell not? If not now, when have we got to lose? Saying that, the 2 immediately arrived outside Vincent's mansion. Richard was busy monitoring while Kate quietly messaged her online friend. Just then, Manon suddenly ran out the door alone. Richard quickly started the car and leisurely followed her to the beach, only to discover that Manon was hosting a women's party there. Seeing this, Richard encouraged Kate to join in to gather more information. Although Kate was reluctant, she had no choice but to change into a swimsuit for the sake of their theft plan. Under Richard's gleeful gaze, she blended in with the group of young girls. As Manon called out names one by one, soon only Kate was left standing there. Her mind raced, and she casually lied that she was a distant relative of Manon. Although a bit puzzled, Manon didn't mind and invited Kate to join the fun. However, Kate was older and naturally not as physically capable as those young girls, quickly suffering a series of unfortunate events like getting hit in the face with a volleyball, bouncing around on a speedboat, and falling into the water. Richard, on the other hand, lounged on a deck chair, leisurely enjoying everything, and eventually fell asleep. By the time Kate finally made it back to shore, the girls had started chatting. Manon suddenly mentioned that she wasn't sure if marrying Vincent was a good choice. as Vincent treated the wedding like a business deal and wanted Manon to please two important clients, seeming not to value his fiancée. While speaking, Manon's gaze fell on Kate, hoping the older woman would offer some advice. Kate didn't expect to become the center of attention and could only grit her teeth and say, "Love is easy to fall into, liking is much harder." She glanced at the soundly sleeping Richard, feeling relieved about her decision to divorce him. Fortunately, this topic quickly passed, and a girl asked about a diamond necklace. Manon, showing no guard, admitted she would wear it at the wedding but kept it in her room until then. After that, Manon regained her enthusiasm, gathered everyone to try water parachuting, and before leaving, sat next to Kate, saying, "I don't have girlfriends like that," and then pulled her along. Soon after, Kate finally ended this torturous time, looking disheveled and continuously complaining to Richard. But more importantly, Kate found out that only invited guests could attend the wedding. Now the two were in trouble again and had to ask their son for help. The son was indeed reliable and quickly found two couples coming from the United States, and Richard and Kate could take their places. But where would they find two more people? Richard and Kate thought briefly and then shared a knowing smile, clearly having found suitable candidates. Later, Penelope and Jerry arrived in Paris, and the four of them met at the airport. After a brief exchange of pleasantries, Kate began to explain the whole plan. Upon hearing that she intended to steal diamonds, Penelope and Jerry showed shocked expressions. They never expected Kate to be so crazy and quickly went aside to discuss. Fortunately, in the end, they decided to join in. After all, they were a loving family. Once the plan was finalized, the four of them hurried to the hotel where the two American couples were staying. Kate took out the sleeping pills she had prepared in advance, and then the four of them put on sunglasses and swaggered through the front door, with Penelope and Jerry posing as waiters, delivering champagne to the two couples while secretly dropping the drugs into their drinks. Soon, the four lost consciousness, and Richard and Kate quietly crawled out from under the cart, working with Penelope to securely bind the two couples with tape and took their invitation cards as they left. It wasn't until they got into the car that the four of them expressed their joy, not expecting everything to go so smoothly. Jerry casually remarked that it was even more fun than before in Guam. But this made Penelope's expression change instantly. She had never heard Jerry mention Guam. Fortunately, Penelope had a carefree personality and didn't dig deeper. Richard then started the car and took them away from the hotel. As night fell, the four of them discussed their next move at an outdoor restaurant. Kate had already obtained the hotel floor plan through her son, preparing to sneak into Manon's room to swap the diamonds, which Jerry would then take out of the wedding venue as part of a switcheroo scheme. Just as Kate excitedly described the plan, Penelope suddenly noticed Jerry continuously winking at Richard, signaling him to look at his pocket, which left Penelope both puzzled and dissatisfied. She directly reached out and surprisingly grabbed a handgun. The two women were instantly shocked, not expecting Jerry to carry such a dangerous item. Richard, however, remained calm, clearly understanding Jerry's character, and Jerry no longer hid the truth, admitting he had acquaintances in the area and that he had obtained the gun from them, considering the dangerous nature of their actions and carrying a weapon just in case. Although Penelope was somewhat angry about his concealment, it was too late to change anything, so she reluctantly accepted and encouraged Jerry to show it off. Just as Jerry took out the gun, Richard reached out and snatched it away, striking a signature pose, and Penelope also indulged in the thrill. However, just as she put the gun down, it accidentally discharged, shooting through a barrel of wine, startling the four of them into quickly getting up and fleeing back to the hotel in panic. Now that Jerry and his wife had joined them, they had to give up one room for them, which suited Richard perfectly. Without waiting for Kate to refuse, he pulled her into his room. After many years, the two lay on the same bed again, but Kate's mood was completely different. Her mind filled with thoughts of stealing the diamonds to provide a wealthy life for the children. Richard also expressed his regrets, understanding that the two had married too early. If they had gotten to know each other better at that time, perhaps the outcome would have been different. Suddenly, a wave of drowsiness hit them during their conversation. Richard and Kate felt their eyelids growing heavier and soon fell into a deep sleep. They didn't know when they had tightly embraced each other, waking up suddenly only when the daylight broke. Kate suddenly realized that perhaps because they knew each other too well, even being so close to Richard, there was no longer the impulse they once had, as if they had never divorced and were still living together. When they arrived at the outdoor restaurant, Jerry and his wife were already waiting there. Today was the day of Vincent's wedding, but Kate brought bad news. She learned from her son that they had to verify their fingerprints to enter the venue. Upon hearing this, the four of them were at a loss, as there was no way to change the fingerprint requirement. Was their plan going to fail? With furrowed brows, Richard had a sudden idea. Since everyone could swim and hike, why go through the front door? So, the four of them immediately sprang into action. They put on their diving suits, made their way to the beach, and jumped into the water, swimming towards the estate where the wedding was being held. However, at the same time, a hotel staff member opened a room door and saw the American couple tied up, which was a serious problem. Unbeknownst to this, Richard and the others had successfully landed and climbed up the back mountain to enter the estate smoothly. Meanwhile, Penelope informed them that she hadn't let Jerry carry a gun, as that would be too dangerous. However, they couldn't worry about that now. After disguising themselves, they mingled with the crowd and took out the stolen invitation to approach Vincent and Manon. But Manon looked displeased and bluntly stated that this was just a business engagement, clearly disappointed in Vincent. Once inside the venue, the four of them wasted no time and immediately began their actions. Jerry was responsible for distracting the security guard, while Richard and Kate quietly approached the window, preparing to sneak into Manon's room through the window frame. This was a life-threatening situation for Richard, as he had a severe fear of heights, but with no other choice, he gritted his teeth and climbed out the window, awkwardly inching forward. Fortunately, they arrived at their destination without incident. However, the next moment, the two were stunned. The room was filled with flowers and many cats. Coincidentally, Richard was allergic to cats, and Kate was allergic to flowers. This beautiful scene felt like hell to them, and they had to search for the diamond while sneezing. At that moment, Manon in the hall was already feeling bored with the social engagement and decided to go back to change clothes. Richard and Kate quickly hid behind a chair, covering their mouths and noses, trying to suppress the urge to sneeze. Fortunately, Vincent's men brought the necklace. Looking at the dazzling diamond, Richard and Kate felt victory was within reach. Even more coincidentally, Manon casually tossed the diamond onto the bed and went into the inner room to change clothes. The two quickly got up to grab it, but unexpectedly, Manon suddenly returned Dot. Manon not only did not get angry, but instead cried and embraced Kate. She had been suppressing her feelings for too long and needed someone to vent to, so she poured out her heart full of regret to Kate. While the two were talking, Richard sneakily reached out to take the diamonds from the bed. But at that moment, Manon had lost control. She saw through Vincent's true nature and just wanted to cancel the business wedding. As she spoke, she leaned back, causing Richard to quickly withdraw his hand. Seeing Manon on the verge of a breakdown, Kate could only keep comforting her, but noticed the tear stains at the corners of her eyes. Upon learning that Kate was allergic, Manon, in a fit of anger, threw all the flowers in the room out the window. At this moment, Vincent realized that Manon had not appeared for too long and decided to go upstairs to look for her. Just as he exited the hall, he was met with a vase falling from the sky. Inside the house, Kate was still unaware that danger was approaching and continued to persuade, also noticing that Vincent did not care about Manon, hoping that Manon could bravely pursue her own happiness. As she spoke, a hint of guilt rose in Kate's heart. She did not want to deceive this poor girl any longer, so she removed her disguise and confessed her identity. Just as Kate was explaining her purpose, Vincent suddenly knocked on the door. Without hesitation, Manon handed the diamonds to Richard. Richard did not expect things to go so smoothly and hurriedly handed the fake ones to Manon. Once the two hid the diamonds, Manon opened the door, only to see Vincent charging in angrily, accusing Manon of throwing the vase and reminding her to take care of the diamond necklace. Unexpectedly, he let slip, "There's nothing on earth that is more valuable to me than you," which left Manon's heart in ashes, completely extinguishing her last hope. Just then, Kate suddenly felt a sneeze coming, and Richard quickly covered Kate's mouth. Vincent also left at that moment. Although Kate scolded Richard for his rashness, she secretly enjoyed it. Richard noticed this and mustered the courage to kiss Kate again, finally making a breakthrough in their relationship. But they both knew it was not safe to stay there long, so they left along the path they came. When they returned to the hall, Jerry stood up to greet Richard, discreetly shifting the diamonds. At the same time, Vincent and Manon also came before the guests. He had planned to introduce his wife to everyone, but unexpectedly, Manon made a shocking statement, declaring on the spot that she had no feelings for Vincent and decided to cancel the wedding. As soon as these words were spoken, the hall erupted in an uproar, with only Kate cheering for Manon's bravery. However, Vincent discovered that the diamonds had been swapped, and just then, two American couples rushed into the hall. Seeing the situation was not good, Richard quickly grabbed Kate to escape, but was stopped in the kitchen. Vincent took the two to the basement, exposed their disguise, revealed their identities, and aggressively interrogated them about the whereabouts of the diamond, even attacking Richard. But what he didn't know was that Jerry was moving the diamond outside. As he got closer to the security checkpoint, Jerry made a bold decision and swallowed the diamond, then walked towards the security machine. The next moment, the machine suddenly went off, not because of the diamond, but because it detected a pair of scissors inside Jerry. Jerry helplessly explained that he had undergone surgery in Vietnam, and the doctor had forgotten the scissors in his abdomen. Although this was somewhat unbelievable, Jerry managed to pass through security smoothly. Just as Jerry and Penelope were getting away with it, Vincent was still interrogating Richard. Manon suddenly appeared, stating that she had sold the diamond and donated the money to charity, just to test Vincent's feelings. This struck Vincent as absurd. He couldn't be bothered to argue, ordered his men to get rid of Manon, and instructed them to deal with Richard and Kate. Vincent's men tied Richard and Kate up and locked them in a compartment, passing by Jerry and Penelope as they exited the estate. The car drove all the way and finally stopped on a hillside. A man gently pushed with his finger, and the car slowly began to slide backward, causing Kate and Richard to panic. When the compartment door opened, the two found the car stuck at the edge of a cliff, instantly freezing in place, afraid to move, carefully maintaining their balance. In this life and death moment, Richard did not panic, but instead apologized to Kate, admitting that he was not a good husband. Kate also realized that she had not done well enough. Just as Richard had said before, they had married too early and were not ready to be spouses or parents. While they were talking, the car suddenly began to fall, sending Kate into a state of terror. But Richard didn't care about that. He just wanted Kate to give him a chance to start over and fulfill their dream of traveling the world, loudly confessing to her, "I like you. I really like you." But it seemed too late to say anything now. Death had already opened its arms to them. Just as the car was about to fall, Manon suddenly appeared, driving and stepping on the gas to pull the car back up. The two, having escaped death, were incredibly excited, but then they noticed Vincent's men were coming. To maintain the act, they worked together to push the van off the cliff. With a loud bang, flames shot up into the sky, illuminating the joyful faces of the three. They knew their lives had completely changed that night. After bidding farewell to Manon, Richard began to think about how to get back, and Kate suddenly mentioned that her French online friend had a yacht, so she contacted him, and they sat by the sea together. But when the yacht approached, Kate's eyes widened in surprise to find that it was a young man. On the way back, Kate asked him why he lied about his age on the website, and the man did not hide it, admitting that he liked mature women because men like him, young and wealthy, are surrounded by hypocritical gold diggers. When they reached the shore, Richard invited Kate to leave with him, but Kate hesitated. She had never dated someone who owned a yacht and had never enjoyed a wealthy lifestyle. The man took the opportunity to express his desire to be with Kate. The scene made Richard feel bitter, but he did not force her. Instead, he chose to let go and allow Kate to experience happiness. Richard, feeling dejected, found Jerry and Penelope, only to learn that the diamond had not yet been retrieved, so they could only wait helplessly. At noon, Kate was awakened by an alarm clock and suddenly realized that this life was not happy, and she had no common language with the young people, gradually understanding what she truly wanted. Kate had only one last request, to have the man take her to the station. Meanwhile, Jerry had already retrieved the diamond, and the three of them sat by the roadside waiting for the buyer to arrive. While Richard was making the deal, Penelope could no longer hold back her curiosity and asked Jerry about the doubts in her heart. Why he knew so many people, why he had so many strange experiences, and why he never told her. Penelope felt that Jerry was becoming more and more unfamiliar to her. She didn't even know what was inside her husband. Jerry was equally unclear about this, but he understood one thing. He would always love Penelope. Yes, no matter what happened in the past, what does it matter now? They had walked hand in hand through most of their lives and still loved each other deeply. Isn't that the happiest thing? As they spoke, Richard had completed the transaction, and the three of them made their way to the car show just in time to bump into the energetic Kate. After so much, Kate decided not to let happiness slip away anymore and chose to stay with Richard to fulfill their wishes. This made Richard ecstatic, and Jerry and Penelope were also immensely relieved. He took the box full of cash and bid farewell to the reunited couple. Just then, a flower seller passed by, and Richard casually bought a flower and gently handed it to Kate. Oh. Soon after, the Jerry couple returned home and lived a wealthy life. Doreen received compensation for the company's bankruptcy, and Richard's children also learned of their parents' reconciliation, showing genuine smiles. In the twilight of Paris, Richard and Kate strolled hand in hand along the Seine. Just as he was pondering what to do next, Kate surprised him with a big surprise. She had bought a small boat, and now they had no more worries and could boldly pursue their dream of traveling around the world. After all, the person they loved the most was right beside them, and they had everything. The end.